Good evening, folks, or whatever time of day you might be witnessing this live stream. And when you're seeing it, might be a dead stream. Who knows? Part way there. Welcome back to Earworms, or welcome to it if it's your first time. I'm your host, Dr. Lawrence W. Moore of the Wayfarer Project. Sometimes I just go by Wayfarer. Tonight we are going to be taking a look at the spirit of Robert Moog. 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 I don't know why I'm so tempted by those O's. They're just two little round O's that make me want to go moo. But it is Moog. Robert Moog was a legendary synthesizer creator, all around electronics engineer, as well as physicist, and a great thinker in many other ways, as we'll find out. And he gave us some of the legendary synthesizers from, the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. And it continues today, even after he has passed in 2005. Moog Music is one of the great creators of synthesizers out there. And legendary name as well as legendary synths. So we'll be taking a look at the man, the myth, and the legend coming right up. I am going to cross over into stealth mode here if I can. There we go. Now I am going to bring on my panelists one by one so you can behold their glory as well. First up will be Mike Mountain Hawk Moog Gorley. Hello there, Mike. How are you doing?
I am doing fine, sir. How are you?
Well, I had one mission. That was to not say Moog. And I went ahead and did it like a dumbass anyway.
Well, there you go. You got it. You got it out of the way.
Yeah, all right. Now,
and that was some fancy Moog playing I was doing in that video. It was so convincing it sounded like a flute.
Yeah. Wow. You have some good triangle waves there.
Yeah, man.
All right. And next I'm going to bring on a gentleman who at first just ghostly turned a whiter shade of pale. Well, Adam, if you want to provide me with a video sometime, I could use that in place of the makeshift video I utilized there.
You have no idea how badly I would like to provide you with a different video.
Adam, just steal one of mine.
That was one of our panelists' suggestions, and we've not been able to live it down on B-side. But yeah, I'll hook you up.
Okay, yeah. I could put my own music on it and stuff like that. But
we're
10, 15
working
seconds.
We're working on some more exciting avatars for myself and Babs over on B-roll, and yeah, I can send you a little something. But it's great to be here, regardless of the stain of the meow meow. I am a cat stigma.
Well, I made it a little bit more romantic. So anyway, folks, yes, links in the description for my panelists here, Mike Mountain Hawk Gorley and Adam Gray is from B-Roll Stage, the famous Friday night stream B-Sides. Wow, this last Friday was pretty. Wow. Nothing to do with Frankenstein's Island has nothing to do with Frankenstein.
Well, there is a Frankenstein at the end. It looks like a 1970s Ben Cooper Halloween costume, but it's.
I don't know how they got away with saying Dr. Frankenstein all that time, and I would think that would be an IP.
It's the likeness that's the issue. Frankenstein, the book, is public domain, but if you use the universal style Frankenstein monster, you could be opening yourself up for trouble.
Okay, so that's why they had to put him in like a black cap and
I
weird
don't know. Listen,
glasses.
I don't pretend to understand the movies that we show. I'm just putting it out there for everyone.
All right, I'm going to rope myself back from this tangent. It's just something about that sucked me in. And our last but not least, all the way from still Earworms 1, we do have Emperor J. Goodwin. And here he is.
Oh,
Prepare for our pleasure.
Hot hail, Emperor.
All hail.
Well, so I'm going to open up the floor just a little bit before I bring up the slides that I have here. We're going to be talking about Robert Moog this evening. And I just wanted to know if any of you gentlemen, and we can go, whoever dives in first goes first, but we can go through everyone. What is your experience with like either Moog synthesizers, were they used in bands you played in, or have you ever owned one, or, just
I've drooled over Moogs in the past, and I mean there's the certain Moog circuits that still show up today that if you've ever put together your own synth or little sound gadget, you try to re-implement a lot of his filters and stuff. I know that he started out kind of just essentially working out of his garage kind of thing, and happened to hit around the time that rock and roll was starting to get experimental again, and they were like, oh yes, we'll have some of that, thank you.
Yeah, well, he started, as we'll find out soon, with the Theremins.
Mm-hmm.
And I might as well bring them up here. Let's go. Unless, Mike, did you have anything you wanted to throw in there?
Well, I'll probably drool at some of this too. I do own the little Moog Mavis, which is a small little unit, and I do have some in my DAW actually that I got off. They actually produce ones for DAWs now that are pretty good. I got the Marina, which is a bass. They also have some effects units as well that I use. So I have some in my DAW. Now, if anyone wants to buy me the $35,000 Keith Emerson one, I'll make room.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's not even available anymore. You'd have to find a used one.
I want to. Does that count?
Yeah, I don't know who had $35,000 sitting around, but somebody did.
Yeah, that's $35,000 like 1970s money, not
right.
Yeah. Now I have seen some just the modular unit for like about 12.
Yeah.
Well,
I have that kind of money sitting around either.
Well, I just called it up there. We see a Moog Mavis for about $300, $299.99.
Oh yeah, they're affordable.
And what I was thinking in looking at it, and let's see if I can share the screen here. We're gonna go to share screen. Yeah, that's it. Imagine that. Because I have a Moog Werkstatt, which looks very similar to this. This must be kind of like their new version of that. It looks like something where you could do a bit of circuit bending and so forth with it.
Yeah, it's pretty recent.
Let me bring it up here. Oh, that's Mr. That's right.
That's the video, which is
That's
not
the
same.
video that we are going to get to. The computer is actually doing the right thing. I'm doing the wrong thing. Here we go. Here we see on Amazon, and imagine that. Yeah, it's
Yeah, the little semi-modular stuff.
Yeah, I have a Moog Werkstatt, and this looks just like it, except the patch bay area is to the right, and you had to actually buy the what do you call it? The patch extension. All it gave you was like just little inlets where you could, just poke in bare wires, and then I added the patch bay thing to it.
Oh, it had the spring clamp style patch bay.
No, it was just little holes, and
That doesn't sound very robust.
No.
They were little when I bought it, but they're bigger now.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think about it. It was like almost like the size of little one-wire things. But I mean, I put the patch bay thing on it real quick. That that I haven't really used it that way in a long time. And so the patch bay basically gives you your mini plugs. And so here it has on the opposite side, but I'm looking at the controls and everything is in the same place as the Werkstatt. And it even has push button keys at the bottom that you can actually play notes so long as you set your frequency knob up here to, whatever note or to the pitch of the note select. You hold this down, turn this to C, and match it up, and then you can play within an octave and pretty much be mostly in tune. As soon as you get to the upper end of that octave, it does drift a bit. But it's mostly meant for circuit bending. I mean, it's easy to take the case off, and then you just access points all over the place.
Right.
But yeah, in fact, let me see if they even have a Werkstatt.
No, the Werkstatt, I see it now. It's the like proto cables, like you do for breadboarding.
Okay. I'm trying to look for it here. I think because of the Mavis, they probably are not.
You probably have to find one on Reverb.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I have one. I own one, so I don't need that.
If you want to find a picture of it.
Yeah. But here's another that I do have. Let's see if they're still doing this.
That's where I got my Moog Mavis. Because the thing about the Mavis is, if anyone is out there is actually thinking of purchasing one of these, is it's a kit. You have to put it together. And which looks doable, but I watched a couple videos and I found one on Reverb that was already put together for less money. So I thought, I'll go for it.
Yeah.
I also have this guy here, although this has got like some sort of sheen on it that's weird.
That's because all they're selling you is the cover. That actually.
The cover. Yeah. Well, I actually have the synth. I guess it looks like that may be no longer in release. The Minitar.
No, I think the like the subharmonica and all that kind of replaced it.
Wow, yeah. Well, the subharmonicon is a whole nother beast. I actually do have that too, because that one you can actually do subharmonics. But let's rope ourselves back because we're starting to dive in deep here. Let's rope ourselves back to, shall we say, what we're going to do today. So I'm going to bring up the first video I'll play, but I'm not going to play it right now. We're going to go to the slides first, but I do want this video ready to go. And okay, now let's get back to the slides because we have a few things to establish, because I know we're just here like drooling over synths, and some people maybe don't know much about Robert Moog yet. There we go, 1934 to 2005. And I remember when he passed in 2005, I was directing the University of Miami Electronic Music Ensemble at the time. And we were doing some music concrete pieces for our concert. And it was before the concert, but close to it, that we couldn't really change everything we were doing. So we used some voice excerpts and kind of like included it into a piece we were composing just to kind of commemorate his his passing and everything. It was sad, but he left a wealth of creations for us to behold. And so there you see a picture of the gentleman, and in this picture, we'll have other pictures to follow. To his left, on the right side of the screen, is the original Moog synthesizer, which, believe it or not, was actually small compared to other synthesizers at the time. He basically made modular synthesis smaller than what they were. They were basically rooms, taking up a whole room. And then under his right hand there would be a Minimoog. Everyone says Minimoog. I just like, and that's what sucks me into the ooh. But Minimoog, and basically that was far more portable, and that came out a few years after the original. We're going to look at some dates here, and those were his first synthesizer creations, but up to this point he was making Theremins. And in fact, we'll see here, he basically, as a child, learned piano because his mother made him. And but he really enjoyed the work that his father did, who was an electrical engineer who worked for Consolidated Edison. And at age 14, he built his first theremin, because I guess music was still in his life, and I guess he preferred theremin over piano. You don't have to worry about all those keys after all. But at
a lot easier to carry to practice as well.
Yes. And so at age 14, he did that. Now, if we do our math here, because one thing we talked about when we covered the theremin was that he made the stringer theremin, which was really a string and not an open air antenna for the theremin, that was used in Good Vibrations, which I believe was 1958 with the Beach Boys single.
It's more like 60. 67.
I thought it was an 8.
Might be 68 then, but
Yeah,
it's definitely not 58.
It's
I'm going to ask Brave.
Oh, it may very well tell you it's 58.
Yes, in 1868, Ryan Wilson invented the surfboard.
When was Beach Boys, what do we call that? Good Vibrations released? I don't know, man. I try to remember numbers and they just interchange with one another. 1966, Brave says.
That sounds about right. It was mid-60s when Good Vibrations came out.
Okay, somehow I had an 8 stuck in my head and then I put a 5 on it. I don't know. I can't think.
Well, you got to 13 and he was 14 when he built his first theremin, so you're almost there.
Yeah. Well, these are facts from, shall we say, the more reliable source of Wikipedia, which used to be many laughs, but now it's starting to...
Oh, it's still many laughs in many subjects, yeah.
Well, it also depends on opinion and some of those things, but at least dates and ages, it'd be nice to get right. So anyway, let's say 66, 34. So he would have been like 32, roundabouts there when he made that stringer. It wasn't until 64 that he made the first synthesizer. So this would have been after that. But up until that point, he was making theremin kits and stuff where musicians could put them together. He loved, audio, electronics, and music, as I list there. And in 1955, he received his first degree, a Bachelor of Science in Physics from Queens College, City University of New York. I just put that in because it kind of gives you a timestamp of where in life he was and what his background is. So physics is definitely broader than just electrical engineering, but he focused on electrical engineering and another BS that he kind of received simultaneously through some connected program between them and Columbia University. So it was basically, he wanted to see the bigger picture, and I think the more focused picture of the stuff he loved, like radio and so forth, because he loved radio, just the concept and listening to a lot of radio stations and listening to music on radio.
It used to be worth listening to. It is no longer.
True.
It's hard to find a radio station where there's a human being actually DJing
Yeah.
at that time. You know,
True.
Yeah, a human actually DJing live for the local station. Yeah,
or
everything now is sat.
Syndicated.
Well, when the hurricanes come, we have only one station that we can go to and try to hear human beings tell us about it. So anyway, it's kind of sad there. In 1965, he received a PhD in engineering physics. That's how it's listed, engineering physics from Cornell University. So you could see that it was about 10 years. And during those 10 years, he was doing the theremin work and, following his passions and doing some other things. When you're young, you're enjoying stuff. His main line of business was Theremin's, and he did found a company, it was originally called R.A. Moog Company, later became Moog Music, as we'll see, in 1953. The Theremin is basically his theremin that he was designing and selling is a way in which he met a composer by the name of Herb Deutsch, and it was Herb that kind of like inspired him to go further. So instead of me continuing to just read some things here, we're going to play some videos. There's a link in the description from a documentary that I do recommend. It's called The Robert Moog Story, and I'll be playing some excerpts from it. And this is one of the excerpts, so we can kind of get a feel for the vibe of the man. And here he's going to be talking about, this is, of course, much later in life, where he's talking about his soundboards, the analog soundboards. And from this, you can kind of see that he had a lot of passion for what he did. I believe I am sharing the video now. Do we have a confirmation on that from Houston?
Yes, I see something.
It's up.
There we go.
If this were a digital keyboard, in other words, if the sound were made digitally, what we would have in here would be one very large microprocessor, like a computer microprocessor, and one very large memory. And then all the sounds will be in a form of numbers in that memory. You press a key, those numbers would come out and be converted into sound waves. That's if this were a digital instrument, which is not. This is an analog instrument. So we have electronic components actually making the electrical vibrations. In the sound path of this, there are no numbers. They're all electrical vibrations, which are the analog of things like strings and wood and brass. So this big board here is where the sound is made. And appropriately enough, we call it the analog board. There's a lot of parts on here. There are over 800 parts. I have one over here that I can show you a little bit more closely. And each section of this board here corresponds to one section of the front panel. And these are called connectors here, bring in the electrical signals that tell the analog circuitry what pitch to go at, when to start a note and when to stop it, and so on.
Now, I'm going to pause it right here because just to kind of connect up with some of our previous episodes, I mean, we were looking at like the Hammond organ with the tone wheels and some of the other Hammond keyboards that came out that were closer and closer to synthesizers, but you had like vacuum oscillators and largely big things. Here we're talking about much smaller things, but still analog, in that the actual sound signal is an electrical one. It doesn't get digitized at any point and converted into numbers or data. It is, really going through the circuit board, going through all the different filters and envelopes, and basically being transformed on the spot at speeds close approaching the speed of light, and eventually reaching a speaker after going through an amplifier and coming out. So it was basically there was a number of innovations that needed to take place, like the VCO, the voltage controlled oscillator. And that's something that we might delve into in future episodes, but that was an innovation that needed to take place. The voltage controlled amplifier needed to take place, which means that you could basically amplify signal with much smaller components and get a clearer amplification with less noise. Um, and the voltage controlled oscillator meant that you could actually control and select different pitches far more easily, and not having to have like dedicated oscillators or tone wheels for each pitch. And so things were starting to become much more miniature, but they were still hanging on to the idea that everything was still analog.
Yeah, I mean, you have the we start out with all instruments are mechanical in some way. Either altering our air that we blow through it or anything like that. Then we get to electromechanical, which a Hammond organ is, again, combines both, because you have those actual tone wheels. It's the mechanical part, and then you have the electronics, for pickups and amplification. Then you go to I mean, there are plenty of like hybrids, but essentially you have purely electrical, which we you could either do basic resistors and capacitors in the classic style, or you used vacuum tubes, and we certainly had VCOs, VCAs, and voltage controlled oscillators with vacuum tubes, but you could also do current controlled as well. But the big change, certainly in Bob Moog's life, would have been the invention of the transistor, which allows him to shrink a room down into a decent sized rack unit. And then we have the integrated circuits, which could still be analog, but they're much smaller, and you can get a chip that has your entire VCO or VCA on it.
Yeah, definitely. Now, the way he described this is, and I know we're not at a good angle. I don't think we're going to get one. But when I take apart the Werkstatt and look at the board in there, it is kind of modular in design as well as the synthesizer, so you can easily find where the different sections are. Now, beyond that, you need to know what you're doing to send them the right things. If you want to do any kind of circuit bending and connect two different points, you got to make sure that you're connecting the right point.
Yeah, do it the wrong way, and you're buying a new board. And,
yeah, exactly.
Realizing you don't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And these little blue adjustments here are the tuning adjustments. There are 21 or 22 of them on this board, and they all have to be set just right, as they would have to be in any.
There we can see a little bit of it, a little bit blurry. It is like a 380p video.
Musical instrument. When I think of this circuit, I have a feeling for what's happening with the electricity as it goes through these parts. I don't imagine resistors being stretched out on a row like this, because that has nothing to do with the sound. What it has to do with is all these little traces on the board here that connect it together and cause the current to change as it goes from one part to the other. So I have a feeling, which is very similar to how I imagine a violin maker feels when he's just getting the right amount of wood in one surface of the violin.
Hello.
There are a lot of people who begin to feel what the circuits do in a way that's similar to the way I feel them. Now, I have technical training, so I visualize things more in terms of voltages and currents, but you can also visualize them in terms of how the sound is changing. And I know for a fact that musicians make contact with this board inside the instrument here. Not physical contact. It's not like they have it under their armpits, but there's something going around here that connects what's going here with what's going inside here. It's not spiritual in the sense that it's religious, but it's spiritual in the sense that it uses some way of connecting what's in the things that are in the universe by ways other than directly with ours that we can see with our senses.
All right, so we'll stop it right there. That's why I called this the spirit of Robert Moog, because he does in this documentary, speak a little bit about some matters a little bit more metaphysical. Now we're going to see here.
I like what he said there.
Yeah,
it was totally true what he said there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And yeah, because actually that's why for a number of years when we were doing the Psyche-Electroacoustic Opera Company in Miami, I was just using only analog, because in live performance, I like to feel knobs. I like, hear the...
Don't we all?
As I'd like to hear the
Everybody
sound.
loves their own knob.
Yeah, and so I like to hear the sound change and feel a connection between my movement and the sound's movement. And of course, I can just kind of like memorize the surface and feel where I'm at, and I don't have to look at anything. It helps when you're in dark environments and stuff, and lighting going on and all these sorts of distractions, not having to read menus and stuff like that. So,
well, and there's more of a performance aspect to it, when you can just reach and feel the control surface, right, and know, okay, the crowd is doing this. If they're responding to these things, then I'm going to do that, or the other players kind of have a different kind of energy, so I'm going to try and match that by playing with it. A lot of what happens in digital synthesis now, at least as far as performance wise, is just press button to play. And then hit alteration or something like that. That's about it. And so there's not that kind of live performance feeling.
Yeah,
no, it's definitely lacking in what is termed DJing now. It's a lot of just push button, and it's not very exciting to watch either.
Yeah. No, it blew me away when I realized people by the hundreds of thousands were going to concerts to see DJs. I get a nightclub, but yeah.
Well,
yeah, and I mean there was a legit time. I mean, Adam and I are old enough to remember when DJing really was, you played turntables like an instrument.
I used to DJ live with a rock band, and I used a combination of turntables and CD players and samplers, where I was working, I was sweating. Live on stage, and that's kind of gone now. It's I don't know.
Well, there's some that still keep it alive, and
a little bit. Yeah, it doesn't feel the same. I'm old. Carry on.
Yeah,
well, your better performers, I think, utilize the technology that we have, but in combination with actual instruments. I mean, that's a lot of what I do. So.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the physical act of rubbing a piece of lacquer against a diamond needle and creating sounds that way, and then altering those sounds. It's very different to me. I don't know.
It's quite sexy.
Yeah, knowing how to. Okay, I've got two things, and I can two tables, and I can play one, and then I do a short hit from the other one. The other one's still playing. I can switch back, move this one right back to the exact same spot, because I know physically where it is, right? And I understand what's going on. And I can just go back and forth between the two tables and essentially just have them talking to each other with the same short clips, because like any instrument player, you learn the physicality of where you are, of what you're doing.
Yeah, it's that physical touch that's missing in digital turntables. We have not the same.
We have another DJ in the audience. Mr. Brown.
He's
Yeah,
been
Senor
back.
Baron.
and I used to don't say that. They have nothing to do with one another.
Oh,
I remember listening to a lot of Mr. Brown's early streams when they were a lot of times just talking, and I got to kind of like little by little meet each guest, each panelist as they came aboard, like swappers and problem being, and a lot of times they would talk about music a bit, and Brown talked about his days of DJing and everything, and I see he's making efforts and kind of getting back to that. And Mr. Brown, if you ever want to engage in some collaboration or just talking about music or trying to put something together, please let me know.
There's a group of jam brewing in the background. I can feel it.
Oh yeah,
We will get there, folks.
I would love to, work with Mr. Brown a bit. So anyway, and if he can, as he is the agent for Senor Maron, perhaps he can help make a little cross-Atlantic collaboration happen there.
well, and I believe you both have the same management with Common People owning both of your works.
Well, he's the executive producer.
Exactly,
So anyway, let us get back here to Bob, and I think one of the things that made his perspective and how he views his circuit boards and synthesizers was greatly influenced by the fact that he worked on Theremins to start with. And so all right, so it's not often that you get a video of Bob playing a theremin himself, but I heard echoes of old folks at home there. When we did the theremin, I remember what was that one clip from the Jerry Lewis movie.
Oh yeah. When he was
Yes. and I don't mean to make a comparison between the two gentlemen there, but that was, that song "Old Folks at Home." It kind of sounded a bit like that. Now, just to about what we were talking about, I was going to play this later, but let me look for this here. Because I think right now this is kind of like exactly what we're talking about. There is a theremin. Here we go. Now, this is a Japanese thereminist. This is when Bob went to Japan to speak and to meet some artists, and this is one of the thereminists he met, and talking about that connection between the performer and the instrument. This was, before his death, like in the early 2000s, and and one of the main subjects coming up was really just that reactiveness of instruments with the performer. No, wait.
I like the scale already.
It needs more wine.
built my first theremin when I was 14, and I was absolutely obsessed with building and later designing theremins for all through high school. And the first instrument I ever made for money was a theremin. It was 1954. At this point, I guess I'm as well known as anybody is for building theremins. So theremins have been a thread through my musical instrument designing life. I love the theremin as a technical phenomenon because it's very simple. It does so much, and it's such a sensitive musical instrument. Simplicity, elegance, too. And that pleases my engineering aesthetic, that you can get a lot of functionality and a lot of sensitivity out of just a few parts.
That, I mean, I couldn't include more of that because I don't know how much the music is copyrighted. How much, certain degrees. On YouTube, there are, strangely enough, certain degrees of copyright. But that was really getting great there and beautiful. Well, anyway, in the portions that we saw there with the lady playing walking bass on theremin, it was like, wow. I mean, using both hands in a similar way that a bassist would, with the hand that plucks and then the fingerings, but quite different because it has to do with proximity with the left hand in this case rather than fingerings. Just amazing stuff.
Yeah, it's translating the skills from one instrument to another.
So anyway, as we proceed forward, the Moog synthesizer was invented in 1964. So he said there, we heard in that last clip that 54 was when he began doing business and making the theremins. And so that was 10 years. And a lot of this, which I briefly mentioned before, was inspired by Herb Deutsch, the composer, who we're going to see a video about a little bit. And basically, he inspired him to work on synthesizers. And then the thing is, at the time, he was able to create a synthesizer that was about 10,000 at that time, which was a large amount of money. I mean, definitely.
That's huge in 64.
Yeah, that's huge. But a lot of the synthesizers at the time were even more expensive because of the size of rooms. So he was approaching the market where the music business could afford to get involved with the use of it. And that's one of the things that helped it to kind of take off. It also had more modularity than a lot of the others. And what we're going to hear about here is the first Moog synthesizer, not the first one, but the first model, because one of the artists that was well known for the Moog synthesizer and using it in her music was an artist by the name of Wendy Carlos. Now, just for this first video that we're about to see, just to eliminate any confusion, we're going to be seeing Wendy before the transition. And so the original album was released under the name Walter Carlos and was called Hooked On, or Switched On Bach, not Hooked On Bach, Switched On Bach. And but we're going to see two videos now, and this is Wendy showing us the Moog synthesizer. This would have been an original first edition Moog synthesizer from the album was a couple of years later, but it's basically one of the early ones.
Show you how we get some of these sounds. First of all, none of them exist as a particular sound as they would on an electronic organ. There's no magic button marked trumpet or violin or drums. You have to build every sound. And to start to build these sounds, you have to start with something pretty simple. And here are the simple things we start with. There are 5 of them. The simplest one of all is something that any lab technician must have seen at one time or another. It's called a sine wave. It's very smooth, very flute-like. A little bit more complicated wave is called sawtooth. And it's called sawtooth because on an oscilloscope screen it looks just like a sawtooth. And this one is a little richer, a little readier, and it resembles a lot of sounds found on home electronic organs. Something in between those last two, and a very useful sound indeed, is something called triangular, and it's kind of a pointed sine wave. So you can see it's a little brighter than a sine wave. This one's called pulse wave, and I'm just going to show you how it swings into a thing called square wave. It's up, down, just like a switch. If you flip a switch, you're making a pulse wave. If it's an even off, on, then it looks on an oscilloscope very symmetrical, and it's called a square wave. And if I take the time that it's on and make it different from the time that it's off, it changes quality. Listen to it.
That's just so people know, that is called pulse width modulation, which is one of the effects that you can utilize with the whole family of square waves, which are called pulse waves. Basically, if you look at the upward square, I'm hoping I can go here and just get back to that view.
I admire your optimism, sir.
I'm looking for where the thing
As
is.
always.
There we go. So, as you see here, the up motions, like the troughs and crests, are basically even in width over time. That's what we would call a square wave. But what you see here is basically when either the troughs expand and the crests contract, or the exact opposite. And that's what's called changing the pulse width. And it results in a timbral change, I guess, as you can hear here.
Shifts into.
And you can only do that with pulse waves. In other words, the square wave being the one where the crest and trough are equal in size.
Is Walter wearing a pair of novelty sideburns here?
I don't know, and that's one of the reasons why I said I didn't look up to find out when the transition actually
I'm just
started and completed, but. Yeah, and in fact, on the album cover, the sideburns are also quite pronounced. I think it was part of the, part of the look.
I get it. I mean, I'm not poking fun at anyone.
It was a very ugly time for.
It was a rough
people.
time for every gender. Yes,
yes, it was. Sideburns were kind of popular. I remember.
These in particular stand out to me.
It's a very useful sound. The last of which is probably the least useful, although you'd never want to be without it. It's very colorful, very coloristic. In its pure form, it sounds like surf or a steam sound. It's called white noise. Now I'll patch this up here into one of my output modules.
And the dress, the form of dress, like this coat, is kind of like from the album cover. It looks just like this. So definitely it was a look for the... for the performer at the time.
My powdered wig is at the cleaners.
Yeah.
Try and show you how with these primitive sounds we start to get some very musical sounding things. First of all, here's a sawtooth wave that's coming out of an oscillator, going into a mixer, coming up into what's called a filter, which is going to remove parts of the sound, either the top or the bottom part, much like bass and treble controls do on your high fidelity system. And by hitting a note on the keyboard now, I'm connected up, so I'll hear that one sound. It's a very low sound. It's very bright. If I manually turn this knob, you'll listen to the sound get considerably duller. Here it gets very dull down here. It's very bright here. Instead of doing this manually, I can do it automatically with what's called an envelope generator. It generates the envelope being this type of motion that I'm shaping the tone with. So I'll do it this way. That can be speeded up till we almost start hearing a plucked string. If we turn that around and make it open up instead of closing, it does this, which was quite a surprise when I first heard it. Has has almost a trumpet-like quality or trombone quality in this range. Let's show you how one of these sounds might be laid in to a piece. Okay, we're in tune. Everything sounds like it's about right. I'll start the 8-track, and you'll hear all the other components of this score, and I'll add in the solo.
Wow. This was a job. Wow. Okay, I don't want to play too much because it is from an album.
Mm-hmm.
And the copyright gods on YouTube will probably give us a bit of a problem. So we're going to move to the next Wendy Carlos video here.
What a great piece of footage here, though. Congrats on finding this.
Well, it actually wasn't hard to find, but man, what a studio.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, no, I love the whole thing.
And here we go. Let me see. I got to actually open the right one. Here we are, Wendy Carlos Part 2.
The development of modern electronics made it possible to recreate music from its component parts, its tones.
Well, you're looking at one of the very first 8-track machines. We used it for switched-on Barkwell tempered synthesizer right through a good half of Clockwork Orange.
Wendy Carlos, in her studio in Greenwich Village, is one of the pioneers of synthesized sound. Her controversial versions of the classics, created entirely electronically, put machine-made music on the map.
Right now we're listening to the 8-track, and we're mixing, sort of playing the role of the conductor, putting together, in this case, a pair of tracks which has all of the string section. That sounds like this. There's a harpsichord track. There are 2 flutes. And there's this nice solo that's split up into 2 tracks.
Lita Brown.
Let's put them all together. I think it needs a little more echo. Yeah, that's good.
Her early work was with
Well, I think right now the monetization is somewhere else for the video, but
As
but
long as
that's
you don't
okay.
get shut off, you're fine.
Yeah, as long as I don't get struck, I'm fine with that because this is educational.
I have had
And-
a number of issues with BBC clips. I don't know if you checked these beforehand, but yeah. As long as they haven't closed off the pipe on the inner tubes, you're fine.
Yeah. All right. So we shall soldier onward. Needed to give it a break there, I think,
the
Great
Moog synthesizer. Though it's a museum piece now, when it was first introduced, it opened the door to a world of music synthesis. It works by first generating these harsh...
Hold on. We got a report here coming through the door.
Just in case you're interested, I emailed you a picture of Inga sitting on my keyboard.
Oh, okay. Usually when Liza comes to the door, there's some emergency. But no, she emailed me a picture of Inga sitting on her keyboard. Okay. Mike, you've been quiet. You've been quiet.
I'm just digging the cats, man.
Okay.
bright sounds, made up of many pure tones played together.
We would pass these bright waves into a filter, which in this case, literally like your tone controls on a hi-fi set, remove portions or boost portions of the sound. We can make it sound very dull, quite pure, or very bright. And you can do this dynamically in time, so sort of percussive, or make it open up, make it sit up there.
The Moog was revolutionary.
Well, you could hear the keys clunking and everything. Wow.
And he just said Moog.
He did.
Well,
they're
that
British. What the
that's
hell
a
does he know?
BBC announcer. You know.
Bloody BBC announcer.
Well, the pronunciation, I guess, is because it was a German name, although Robert Moog was described as like being like Polish heritage. So I don't know. But anyway.
Well,
But
for
it
those that are
generated
worried about that there might be missing something, if you type in Robert Moog in YouTube, you'll get the story and all kinds of stuff. So I've watched the documentary you're talking about, which includes this.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone who wants to see more, just type in Robert Moog.
Well, these two clips weren't in that documentary. Maybe they're part of another one, but
I've watched a bunch of stuff just like you. So
yeah, these I found separately, but
yeah,
I have the links in the description to all these videos, folks.
Oh, there you go, people.
tones together with little control, its sounds were crude. Soon, it was overtaken by a second revolution, controlling individual tones by computer.
Unlike the Moog synthesizer, we're not going to be taking away, tearing down bits of a very bright wave. Instead, we're going to put together little overtones, pieces of sounds, characteristic of all sounds, and assemble them additively rather than subtracting parts that we don't want.
By adding tones one at a time, Wendy Carlos is able to build precisely the sound she wants. This is the beginnings of a xylophone.
Now, obviously, if we want to make that sound like a xylophone, we're going to have to make it speak more quickly. So I'll shorten the attack from being about a half a second. There. Now it's getting on almost instantaneously, but it's lasting too long. Let me drop that down a bit. This is much more like a xylophone. Well, that one sounds pretty good. So I'll take that pattern and play a simple music phrase.
Now she specifies.
Now, I don't know what keyboard that is there.
Kurzweil.
Okay. Yeah. Damn. An additive synthesizer. Yeah, I guess Kurzweil was known for the additive approach.
Yeah.
I know that was more of, I believe, the West Coast approach.
No, the West Coast was a mess. That was basically just let's take more drugs and make sounds and let it be like self-running and auto-generating. No, Kurzweil is much more, again, the computer side of things where, they were doing audio stuff more like speech. And then, Kurzweil eventually goes on to do like OCR and all kinds of stuff, but they were very experimental in the computer side of things. And
now he's predicting what they're going to do to us.
He's always been predicting shit. His accuracy is pretty bad, but
yes.
Well, I hope so. I hope so.
Predicted a lot of things.
Yeah. I think he's predicted 2 of the last 87 Armageddons.
Don't get me started on that singularity thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh no! Yeah.
Singularity.
Only one. 3 more pure tones in the proportion she already knows a real xylophone produces.
Now I'll put in all 4 of them. Now, this is something that's very close.
So basically what is happening here is these sliders are basically adding sine tones at the frequencies of the harmonic spectrum, which starts 1 octave above the fundamental pitch, which is the note that you hear as the pitch, and then goes up a 5th above that, and then a 4th above that. Basically, it continues to get narrower as it gets higher and higher in frequency. But all of those pitches basically harmoniously line up with the fundamental and create different timbres, and they are basically, I guess, as you can hear here. But it was wow.
Let's build Fourier transforms manually. Let's not. How about that?
Yeah, because if you really want change over time of the timbre, there's too many sliders really to kind of like move around over time and stuff like that. So I don't know. Kind of interesting concept, but yeah, subtractive. I mean, you could use additive to build something and then use subtractive to filter it. And
that's
so
a important thing to kind of point out. Moog synthesizers, at least the classic ones, are all subtractive synthesis, right? You start with a waveform and then you remove things from it to make it more complex. The flip side is additive synthesis, which is what we really run into once we start getting computers involved, and FM is one thing, FM synthesis, which is its own Looney Tunes track to go running down. But wave tables and all that stuff, they're all additive, not subtractive. You still had subtractive if you were doing filtering, but to build the initial thing, you were adding things to it.
Yeah. But the thing with me is like, in order to make something a little bit more realistic, the sound needs to transform a little bit over time, like even as a pitch. Like here, if you're creating a xylophone sound, you want the higher frequencies to become duller quicker, and for the lower frequencies to last a little bit longer. And,
so you almost said like ADSRs for every one of your tunnel components.
And you can't really do that additively, but you can take like a low pass filter and have it just kind of lower with an envelope.
I mean, yeah, you can actually do it additively, but you're not doing it with slides on a Kurzweil keyboard. You're doing it with computers.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see if there's any more goodies in this, and then we'll move on.
Close to being a replica of a xylophone, but there's an element that's missing, and that is the hammer noise that you get with a real instrument when the mallet impacts against the wood.
For this final touch, she adds an electronic shake to each sound component.
Adding some noise.
Wow.
But there, we were seeing something that is blasphemous to Robert Moog.
Yes.
In what he stood for. So anyway, at least we saw some early Moog synthesizer. If we go back here to our wildly entertaining slides, as soon as my... there we go.
Do we have the cha-cha slides tonight?
Cha-cha?
Oh, I hope so.
Sorry, carry on. Sorry.
Well, I do want to answer one thing, because the only time we really get to talk by voice to one another is usually on stream. This week I did mention the trip, because I did I was bad. I did a what do you call that?
A tab of acid?
Yeah, I was going to say, you did a trip.
Well, or a Brave search, which is remarkably similar.
There you go. That's what I did. I did a Brave search, and
you should have stuck with the acid, Lawrence.
I said film or television scores that prominently feature the Moog synthesizer, and I got the results of the two TV shows was Knight Rider, which may be true, and Twin Peaks, and there it had more specificity, and even mentioned the composer's name and so forth. But so I dropped that out. Those are options, and also there was The Trip and Point Blank listed as films. Now, I did watch The Trip this week.
Great movie.
Yeah. There might have been about 3 seconds of a synthesizer at one point.
Yeah, as a former owner of the soundtrack on a really lovely, delicious, thick vinyl edition, there's not a lot of synth going on in there.
Yeah. And so I'm like, all right, that's why there is no slide through of a film or TV show this week, because by the time I found that out, I was like, damn it. Then I was thinking, well, maybe we should cover The Trip like next week and stuff. But since it's got music in it, but we can't play that. And then the visual, I don't know. About halfway through the film, I wasn't as interested as I was in the first half.
No, that would be wise. I mean, as they point out though, there's an obvious one that uses Moog, and that's Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think what we might do is this. I also have altered states. I didn't make the slide yet, but I want to do that. Now, that is not Moog. Obviously, that's John Corigliano and mostly orchestral score, but it's an amazing score. And so I'd like to do one or the other.
I'm not sure if Carpenter used. I mean, I've seen some videos of the guy that worked with him that actually is like reset up the synths that they had that they used for some of the scoring of his movies, like Halloween and all that. I'm not sure if I remember a Moog.
Well, our audience is welcome to suggest things and recommend things. What does common people have to say here? Because when I'm in the video view and I'm DJing videos, I can't see the chat at all. But now when I'm back here, quick, take the money before
We're giving you £5.
£5. Well, that gives them a nickel bag.
FBI, open up, Common.
All righty. So thank you, common people. So yeah, I think maybe we'll do Clockwork Orange and then Altered States, because Altered States would be great for the Halloween week.
I would love to revisit Altered States, actually. Yeah.
Clockwork Orange, I'm going to have to do a lot of censoring.
You don't even have to be in an altered state to watch Clockwork Orange. It will put you in.
It will put you in there, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. Well, we'll see. I'll discuss it with you guys whether we do Clockwork Orange or something else. But definitely for Halloween, I want to do Altered States.
Cosmos, another great suggestion.
Yeah, Cosmos. There's not many of the components of that score that would use a Moog, because most of those are by Vangelis.
Well, remember, this will be next week. It doesn't have to have a Moog in it, but
then all of Cosmos, you're good. Yeah, Vangelis is killing it now.
Cosmos, didn't you do that, Adam?
No.
What?
Didn't you do Cosmos?
No.
Oh no, you're thinking of Kronos, the movie.
Psyche is talking about Cosmos, the series by Carl Sagan.
Yeah, I know Carl Sagan. I love that. I mean, I have all that, but
no,
I don't know how we're going to. You want to do a slide through of some of Carl Sagan's Cosmos?
Cut from the soundtrack and fuck showing anything video.
We just want Vangelis.
Yeah, okay. Maybe we could do that. Maybe I could make a narrative, out of it. Take some clips and make a narrative and make it into a story.
And if we're just going synth of greatness, Blade Runner, The Bounty.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, I know. Yeah.
Oh, there is actually an excellent BBC. It's short-ish that covers the in-house recreation. So when they changed the Doctor Who theme in 1980, they use like a Yamaha CS80. So I'm already very erect when I'm watching it. But they talk about because there's I think it starts with Della when she creates the original Doctor Who theme and showing some of the techniques that she used and all that. But then when they changed it in 1980. Using synthesizers, they show them actually putting it together and him kind of saying what he did to modify it.
Yeah, that was something I was going to say for the special edition with Proby doing any of the Doctor Who music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're working on that, folks. But now let's finish this off. Enough team prep while we are on live. Okay, I'm trying to get back to some sort of view that allows me to show this. There we go. Hey, well, that covers it up. Okay, let's do that. There we go.
There you go.
So anyway, it was, what year was it? I believe it's on the next page. The Minimoog came in 1970. And this was to be even more portable than what you saw there in the videos. And this one truly was portable. And that's what really kind of took off for the rock bands and everything like that was the Minimoog. Although Keith Emerson loved the original Moog synthesizer, he was proud to have that mountain on his stand there. Now, some things about Robert Moog, and I'm just going to do this now just so we can kind of end the slides and just do some videos here. He was considered to be not a great businessman because he made so many innovations that he could have patented. And what he ended up patenting was really just his ladder filter design. And that was it. Everything else, his innovations were things that could be, imitated by others and then followed by others. But in so doing, at this time where the synthesizer was becoming a useful thing, especially in pop music, it allowed for more and more synthesizers to be created. And if he would have had them patented, he might have made a bit more money and stuff like that. But who knows if it would have grown as big as it did. I don't know if you guys have any opinions on that, but that's
the one thing is that Bob Moog did not really enforce his patents very hard because his ladder filter was used by everybody, and I don't recall him ever suing for its use. But yeah, you could get synths from the 70s onwards that just was like, oh, that's a nice thing. We'll just have that and put this in here, right? I think the Prophet used his ladder filter.
Mm-hmm.
And this definitely would have been within the window of a patent. And I don't recall Moog ever doing anything.
Well, no, I read that and it wasn't on Brave.
If I
better comment, people.
See a comment.
I know he has a patent. I'm just unaware of him ever actually.
Yeah, well, maybe that's the thing. Maybe he just didn't enforce it, but it was. I read that he that was the only thing that he had patented when he could have patented more.
If I missed it, I apologize. But can we get a 60-second breakdown on what the ladder filter actually is?
Well, take it away, Jay.
Well, so you have different types of filters that you can use for your sound, right? The most common thing we do is high pass, low pass, and band pass filters, and you kind of tune those in or whatever. The ladder filter had discrete steps. It was more than just here. I'm going to take, like, a low pass would often be fixed. Or you could use a dial to turn it up, but it had this kind of max and it's done. And then band pass is essentially high pass and low pass, whatever is allowed between those two.
Okay.
The Moog filter had these discrete steps throughout the sound, right? So you could get a very distinctive filter sound coming from a Moog that you didn't from others. Until they started stealing the hell out of it.
But basically, the end result was, at least for a musician, if you were to take a low pass filter, which passes sound that's frequencies are below that point that you set, and you started raising that frequency, that cutoff frequency, you would hear the different overtones and higher frequencies come in almost like one by one.
Mm-hmm.
And as opposed to
continuous.
Is it there? Yeah, continuously. And so it gave you a little bit more control, all still being analog. So, in the digital world, of course, then, you can do whatever you want. But in the analog world, that was kind of like a bit of an achievement where you could say, okay, I want this overtone in, but not this one. And so you could kind of like be more precise with it.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
It was much more granular in its use.
Okay.
So, but so anyway, in 71 though, the Moog Music, at that time it was called Moog Music, merged with Norlin Musical Instruments. I had never heard of those before, but they merged with them, and it was based in upstate New York. Robert Moog was living up in Ithaca, New York at the time, and so it was kind of convenient. And he stayed on as a designer there of instruments when the companies merged, but he eventually got out of that in, I believe, 77 is when he left. And that's when he started trying to get his own company back together again. And I think it's called Briar Music. Yeah, he moved to North Carolina, and it was called Big Briar Company, and that was basically his company, which shortly before his death in 2002 was able to rename itself to Moog Music again, because he was legally not able to before that point because of the merger and everything. He didn't have the ownership of Moog Music, so. But Big Briar was his company, and so that's where all the modern development of his brand of synthesizers came from, and till the early 2000s, and then it was called Moog Music again. So anyway, a lot of that was basically it was described as being, just his business decisions where he didn't make as much money as he could have out of what he did, and so in many ways it's like refreshing. In many ways,
I admire that. I do.
Yeah, especially compared to this day and age where it's like everybody wants to just own stuff, and it's not about making things, it's just owning something and charging other people to be able to do anything with it.
Well, I mean, to be fair, there are plenty of companies started by engineers, and engineers tend to be pretty shit at business. And sadly, Bob, to one degree or another, was pretty bad at business at the end of the day. And Moog Music also is no more. It was within the last couple of years, it was bought by In Music, and the factory and design team that was still there in North Carolina was shut down like a year or so ago.
Wow.
So they just own the brand.
So now they're making the Mavis.
Yep.
So
Bob always struck me, from what I've seen of him, as being a happy guy. He wasn't a greedy bastard.
Yeah.
Well, again, he was an engineer. I mean, as long as I get to play with the toys I want to do and I make cool things or whatever.
Right.
I'm good.
And he made other people happy, and people made music with it. So,
So the now
so he was a good guy, in other words.
Yeah.
A unicorn, if you will.
Well, I mean, the thing about a lot of people is they are selfish, but they just have to be selfish about certain things. And again, if you just said, okay, I'm going to give you a couple $100,000 a year, go putter in your shop, and we will make money off of whatever you do, I would sign up.
Yeah,
because I'm much more interested in playing with the things. But the reason that they can give me money is because they are making money out of it somehow. And again, with Bob, I want to do the things. That's why Bob was not. He did not have Moog Music anymore, because he had to sell it, because business wise he wasn't all that good at it.
Well, it was described as a merger there.
By merger, they said, we'll take that, and then was nice seeing you.
Okay. Well, no, he stayed on for like
another like 5 years.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that was part of the purchase agreement.
Yeah. But in any case, so nowadays, Moog Music, I knew it would be, obviously, after his passing, it's who knows who is in control of it or anything. But you say it's M Music or something?
IN Music is bought.
In Music.
Yeah, they bought a number of brands. And then done with them what they will. I think they owned Dave Smith Instruments for a while. But I think they gave the name back to Dave Smith a few years ago.
Well, I know that when I bought a Dave Smith Prophet 8 back in, it might have been 2014, 2015, he did have Dave Smith Instruments then.
Right.
I don't know if I can't follow the business stuff. And
I mean, it's kind of like the company that owns Black & Decker, Craftsman, DeWalt, and everybody else, right? They own all of these brands in the same way that, like, when Sears went out of business, there's a major company that owns like all appliance brands.
Yeah.
And so Kenmore just became another label in the stable.
Yeah.
Wow. So
just keep it for namesake.
It's just brand identity.
Well,
Yep.
I mean, for Moog Music, whoever's in that division, as long as they don't need to make anything new, just make new instruments with the same stuff in it.
Well, and Moog Music was the last American synthesizer company, where they actually had people in America making them, assembling them, and all of that. That is no longer the case.
Oh, wow. Well, that's something we could get involved in,
There's a reason there are no more American synthesizer companies.
Yes, I know.
Because Uli Behringer will just come in and make a copy of it. And
I don't know if you could afford my soldering.
Yeah, Behringer did that. And I actually have a Behringer Model D, which is modeled off of the Minimoog Model D. And it's all right, but damn it. Well, anyway, let's cheer ourselves up with a little bit of beer.
It's the one thing to have when you're having more than one.
If you want that, Adam, I'll be happy to give that to
I
you.
do want more than one. That's sort of my credo. You don't have to have a credo, but
if you do, this is the one to have.
That's a good one to have.
It's the one to have when you're having more than one.
Just like
All right.
Standards.
Well, that was actually made, with a Moog synthesizer, and it's part of the documentary too, because that was an ad that picked up on it. And now we're gonna meet Herb Deutsch, who is the guy that helped inspire Robert Moog to work on synthesizers. And he's going to talk a little bit about two different Minimoogs. The Minimoog is not in and of itself a specific. Well, it's kind of like a model with submodels, and this is the difference between the Model D and the Voyager.
The Model D Minimoog is the instrument that really made popular the concept of the synthesizer. And what I'd like to do is just look at some of the similarities between the Model D Minimoog and the Minimoog Voyager, which came out much later and represented a whole new growth from the basic idea. Anyway, I'm setting up the Voyager and designed right now. It intentionally is set up to be fairly similar to the Minimoog, and let's look at where that similarity is, because it's really a period of growth. When Bob and I first designed the idea for what the synthesizer should be, it was designed with the idea that it would have oscillators, a filter, an envelope generator. I won't go into the whole story of the envelope generator. It was the second day that we were working when I said, we need something to control the articulation of the instrument. The envelope generator, basically Bob said, oh, that's great. And he designed it in about a half an hour. The story is, I've been told so many times, but maybe I'll just add it on, that he said, go out and get me a doorbell from the hardware store. So I went out and got a 35-cent doorbell, and he had already come up with the concept of an envelope generator, so that when I pushed the button on the doorbell, that would be the trigger that would start the envelope generator working. And these were all parts of the basic instrument. And when they were put on the Model D, they made the instrument light and portable and a single solo type instrument. Now, this is really where the Voyager came in. It is a growth from that into a much more sophisticated and much more magnificent musical instrument. Basically, where it begins is that it has a series of oscillators, filters, and an envelope generator, but it is a much more interesting approach to that. But the instrument has a set of presets, and you can go from one to the other. This is Synth World. Now I'm going to touch the filter, and let's see what happens. Well, when I grab the filter, what happens is you get a reading in front of you. And the reading says, on the preset sound, the filter is set at a certain level. But you can change all that. See, I've taken the filter away from that particular sound. And of course, once you're on these preset sound, your mind is free. Your mind is free to just say, oh, that's a great sound. I like that. And then, again, you touch any control on it, and you get a reading of where the sound is set, so that you can, spending enough time, you can begin to get an idea of where your settings are on the keyboard. And of course, when you're performing, it's tempting just to, press buttons and see what they sound like. And I'm pushing buttons right now and discovering it myself. To discover what makes this sound the way it does. If you're interested in the idea of synthesis, the first things that you would look at is what's going on in there? Is there, I can even change it the way I could change any basic sound by adding modulation.
So this would be a far more modern Minimoog, but we had one of these at the University of Miami, and it got stolen. And,
oh shit!
No.
Yeah, someone left a message saying, "It's a shame no one really uses this. I think I'll give it, a new home," or something like that. And that was a bunch of BS, because
Yeah, that's
I
something to
used
cope.
well, yeah, definitely. But I mean, no, first of all, it's wrong no matter what. But
Of
the
course.
thing is, like, I used it a little bit. I didn't use it in
Yeah.
any of my music, because then there would be question of ownership, because when you use like an academic institution's facilities, there could be question of that. But I played with it enough, But
Passive
anyway,
aggressive thieves. That's nice.
Well, they were justifying their own,
but
Big time.
one of the things I like about the Dave Smith instruments is it has this encoder approach where you could call up presets, and since there are encoders that turn endlessly in any direction, the preset comes up internally, and then it doesn't matter where your knobs are positioned. It's you have that sound.
Yep.
And then when you touch the encoder, obviously you're starting to change it again. It could be a little confusing at first, but I like that.
Yeah, it's better than potentiometers that, I'm playing the preset, but the minute that I touch a potentiometer or do something, now it's off.
Yeah. And so the only thing is I wish they were a little bit bigger, but, and the screen was a little bit bigger, but then you'd be paying a lot more. But
Well,
anyway,
it could be worse. You could be using Roland screens. So.
Well, I feel we do need to test ourselves a little bit. We've been kind of happy-go-lucky watching some Moog videos here.
Uh-oh.
And I think
Hold on to your butts.
Hold on. Slides, not share.
Will there be Inga?
Well, yeah, right at the beginning. Right at the beginning, Inga will be
Inga
here.
time.
I'll have to
Hey!
check out that photo that Liza sent me, though. If I was quick on the draw, I'd try and bring it up now, but I'm not good at that. It takes me long enough to pull up planned stuff. So here we go. We are going to test ourselves if we are able to determine the difference between what is real and what has been made by Ray Kurzweil's artificial intelligence. Here we go. Is this Bob Moog a picture of him, or is this AI?
No, that's AI.
It's AI.
Yeah, I'm gonna
It's
go
not
with
Bob.
A.
It's a fake Bob.
Yeah.
Well,
could be Ed.
And the keyboard's keys are a little bit chunky there. But anyway, how about this one?
There's Bob.
That's Bob.
That's the Bob I've come to know and love.
Yep.
That's the one from the
Bob.
From the thumbnail. And then now here's a bit of a.
That's young Bob.
Young Bob.
Yeah, I'll call that legit.
Yes, it is. That is young Bob Moog. I could see why he didn't really. It took him a little while to, get the business going. He was probably out having fun.
I bet he was. Good looking man.
How about a fever dream?
Wow. I think Bob's aspect ratio is a
yeah.
Bob
never did recover from that unfortunate hydraulic press incident.
AI, acid indigestion.
Yeah.
AI reflux.
Acid ingestion, maybe.
Ingestion.
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for. There you go.
Now here, there's a couple things to ponder. Not only the gentleman you see before you, but the equipment behind the gentleman.
No, that's AI.
Yeah,
the keyboard looks like a mess.
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't have to play that middle
Moog
keyboard.
would
That
make.
would be a problem.
Now that might be.
That's Bob.
The last one, no.
Looks legit to me. I'm not counting fingers because the image is too small, but
Yeah, I should have stretched these out, I guess. But no, this is Bob Moog. That's his lumberjack phase.
Lumberjack, yes.
Well, we've all been there.
he's a lumberjack and he's okay.
Yeah, he works all night. He sleeps all day. That's Bob.
Yep. All right.
I've ever seen him put on women's clothing, though.
He has hanging around in bars.
He might have. Yes, he probably has hung around in bars. It's a postage stamp.
Literally on my screen, it's a postage stamp.
That's Bob with the "Wish You Were Here" postage stamp.
I don't know if the Floyd ever used a Moog. I could be.
It's hard to imagine not.
Yeah.
That's not Bob. I don't know why Bob's feet have sprung another set of hands. Sticking there.
Spider Bob.
Spider Bob does whatever Spider Bob does.
The amazing Moog.
Yeah.
The amazing copy and paste console.
Uh-huh.
All right. Is this Bob at a Ren fair?
Moog and Monty Python? I did not know that.
This Bob is at a run fair, but that's not our Bob.
It's not the Moog. It's a very naughty
For
boy.
the Holy Grail.
Yeah,
It's
that's
looking for a shrubbery.
Well,
Shrubbery.
that is actually an AI creation.
What?
And
That's not Bob.
Not Bob.
well, this one I just wanted to include because this is what I got on Google in searching for Robert Moog at a Renaissance fair. Not up top, but
That's a
further
Furby.
down.
That's a denuded Furby.
Yeah, that's a Furby that's been customized.
So Google isn't perfect either, but
I'll say.
Really?
I don't know that that's AI. I just know that's a
There he
denuded
is
Furby.
again. This is him after he found the Holy Grail.
Yeah. Pimped out his drip.
I like the John Wayne posture.
Too bad
Yeah.
about the lobster claw hands, but that's fine.
That's
Look,
the answer.
sacrifices had to be made.
All right, I think we had a perfect evening tonight. None of these.
Also, who is Ren Fire?
Ren Fiar.
Mhm.
Have you never attended
Friar
a
Ren.
Ren
Yeah,
Fiar?
it's Renfield's brother.
Ren Fiar.
We're down to typos, guys. Really.
Yeah, that's what we're at.
That's
Poor
not Bob,
Herb.
but that's real.
Poor Herb. And I believe Herb is still with us.
He is.
So anyway, we are going to move along here. I do have some more videos here. This one we played before, Japanese lady, the theremin artist. And now here's some talk about. No, here's a talk with Herb Deutsch. It's Robert Moog and Herb Deutsch from the documentary. I just need to skip a little bit of music here at the beginning, just in case. I mean, probably by now.
Oh, we're
Did
so
you literally
far away.
record your phone with the video? Okay, there we go. That's fine.
You remember when we finally got together and I had built up some couple of voltage controlled oscillators?
Oh yeah.
What? How looking back, how did that strike you?
That was one of the most exciting times in my life. To be able to sit there and be within fingertip control of what were really new sounds at that time.
When you took these circuits and your tape recorder down into the basement and you actually put music together, that blew my mind. You know that it sounded one way, it sounded very electronic and striking, but not musical on the bench. But then when you assembled sounds musically on the tape, all of a sudden it became a piece of music. That was totally amazing.
You know, the thing about electronic instruments is that as soon as you touch them, if you're a musician, they immediately trigger off musical ideas because the reference point is there. I mean, there is a reference point of a world of music you know. And then there is the other reference point is that music that potentially would be there. The music that could grow out of sounds that the traditional instruments can't make and that the traditional references aren't there for. We talked, for instance, about at the very beginning days about whether the instrument should have a keyboard.
That's right.
In the very first few days, should it have a keyboard? Is that necessary?
Yes.
And they ended up basically releasing it separately.
We always have to have an upsell. I mean, come on.
Yeah. But I mean,
add-ons.
Yeah.
But it is true, and this is before MIDI, so the keyboard was sending voltage signals to trigger the VCO to play the right pitch. And but just that idea that should we do this or shouldn't we? Should we put a keyboard on it? Well, it definitely helped with the popular music, but at the time they weren't necessarily thinking that was the way to go with it. You know?
No, yeah. I mean, again, you didn't have prior to that. Most synths were sound effects or send them on run, and then they are self-playing in a lot of ways because of drift and feedback and all of that, and then you play with the overall inputs to that, which is, again, that's very much West Coast, which is, here we go, let it start running, and then we play with inputs, and then it just evolves its own sound regardless. I think Herb in some ways is the reason that you have the East Coast West Coast separation of synthesis, because he is the musician's input, for Bob, whereas West Coast not so much. This is more the electronic tinkers playing with things.
It's a very valid question for the interface. Do you want to Do you want to take this technology and this innovation in a totally different direction, or do you want to put it in the hands of people that already know how to play a piano and then let them take it from there? It's a
And
good
then only give them one note, at least at first.
right, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a theremin interface. Like that's
Yeah.
unlike anything else in the world, you know. Yeah, that's kind of a cool philosophical question.
Well, I think we've seen, like with the owned Martineau and the Troutonium, that you have other options there too. A ribbon
Yeah,
controller.
they could have come up with something completely alien, really, or it could have just been knobs and switches. You know,
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think for a musician, you want something that you can touch and kind of feel,
something
and
relatable. I think was the right.
and the knobs kind of do that, but something in selecting pitch. I mean, and I'm at the point now where I'm sick of keyboards, but I have to use them, you know, and I'm just kind of tired of
They
it.
come in handy.
Yeah, they do, but I'd almost like to, especially in the digital world, just to trigger an input notes or things like that. But it's like at some point, if I just want to play, you know, I don't really want a keyboard, because that immediately cages you in to thinking in,
In
you
those
know,
terms, yeah.
in chord structures and
Mhm.
so forth.
Well, I mean, the thing that you have to look at is what level of control do you want to have, and at the end of the day, you know, 88 keys are a hell of a lot more controlled than I'm going to hit a couple of pads.
Yeah.
And now you do have some keyboards now that actually have keys that are not longer velocity sensitive and aftertouch, but also lean to the right or to the left, and so you can actually treat them like strings.
Oh wow!
When you play them,
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago that they came out with those.
Yeah, and the Rolly keyboards, the polyphonic expression keyboards, where you can kind of like glide your finger along this. It's not really a key. It's all like some padded thing, and you glide your finger along what's marked as the keys areas, and you get different controls from that and everything. Kind of cool. I think the problem that Rolly had was their drivers and the hardware had some issues with it, because I actually got one of their small things called a C-board, and after a bit it kept saying that, you know, you don't, and this was before I switched to Linux. It was on Windows. It says you need to use the USB cable that came with the instrument, and I was you know, and it just wouldn't connect up with its software after a little while. So you got to be careful. Sometimes these companies come up with great ideas, and then either the manufacturing or the driver design doesn't rise up to it.
Well, are they going to be around to help you continue using them?
Well, they still exist.
After they sold you the product, yeah.
Yeah, well, they still exist, but I guess I was the one that I hate to just call and stuff like that, but maybe I will. But at this point, I was just kind of like chalk that up to, as like, kind of like an impulse decision, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the Rollies were, they always, to me, when I saw them, it was like, I mean, this looks a bit cheese, where it's like, here's rubberized key-like things that you can do things with or whatever. You know, the keyboards in particular, I was looking at, they're real keys, and they actually, the mechanical action though has a rotation axis on the keys. So you can actually, again, slide in, slide out, and you can do the same thing between keys. And you have the ability to control how much of the roll is required for you to trigger, because you can get it where, if you're used to playing piano and you step over to one of those keyboards that are actually the sensitivities turned up on, it sounds like a disharmonic mess, because you realize how much you depend on the rigidity of keys and hitting them. Oh, I can hit it on the side and it's fine. No, these, you better hit them dead square in the middle or you're screwed.
Well, that makes it more of a challenge then.
Indeed.
I need more challenges in my own life.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
It's amazing what they've done with keyboards now. I think some of that too has to do with, a lot of people using, digital workstations and the various programs that you can use with them.
Yeah.
If a keyboard is able to do some of the things you were mentioning, then you have an ability to sound more like the instrument you're trying to imitate. It's amazing.
Yeah, and you can route them in multiple ways, right? So using it as a MIDI controller,
Yeah.
you could say, no, I'm actually going to have the roll affect a different thing other than tone in the sliding way, right?
Right.
Mm. Yeah. Well, let us see what comes next.
There were all sorts of ways of shaping the pitch of the sound.
Yeah.
Keyboard was just one of them.
Yeah.
And in fact, I remember thinking that this keyboard is not necessarily for changing pitch. It could change anything. It could change loudness. It could change vibrato. It could change the tone color. Anything.
And eventually, of course, it got to that level.
Yeah.
I remember feeling that a keyboard would make sense. And I know that Vladimir Usichevsky had said, you and he had spoken, and he had said that the keyboard may not be a good idea because it would force people to think very traditionally.
In a way, he was afraid of how people's keyboard technique would come through on material that really shouldn't be organized according to pitch.
And looking at it retrospectively now, it's 40 years later, Bob.
Yeah.
He was partially right.
Yeah.
Because a great deal of the material that was generated by synthesizers since then has been material which could very well have been generated without synthesizers. And in thinking that way, Vladimir was right.
Yeah.
But of course, what I don't think either of us realized was how much that would change the whole nature of thinking about what keyboard-controlled sounds could be.
It's interesting to me the steps in the evolution. When you and I first worked together, because of your influence on me, I thought that what we were doing together was figuring out ways to make new kinds of sounds, so that these sounds could then be combined on a tape recorder and sequenced to make interesting sound sequences. From that, the people who made music for commercial music for radio and TV began to use the same equipment to make evocative sounds for commercials. And because the general public got used to those sounds, the next step was using them for melodic purposes.
Yes.
So it's as if what we began got diverted or deflected into the mainstream, and then when it came back, it was suddenly all tonal and keyboard oriented.
Yeah, came through as sound effects, and eventually became more musically motivated.
Well, I think this is an example of when you create a technology or a tool and release it out into the world and sell it to the customers, they're going to use it however the hell they see fit, and what you intended may not be what it actually gets used for, and comes back around, and you can either go, hey, that's great that you used it for this different thing, or you can be like a lot of engineers, people that's like, well, that's not what I meant. It's like, nobody cares. If you wanted it to only mean what you meant, then you shouldn't have sold it to somebody else, right? Just keep it for yourself.
Yeah, that's kind of worries me with some of the stuff like with computers now and software and things. It's like when I purchase a software and it says, okay, buy, I believe I'm now the owner of that software. I may not own the code or anything, of course.
They misspelled rent.
Yeah, they seem to have, because it's almost like it'll expire, or it's like, you're not allowed to use it that way or anything like that.
Yeah, that's the one thing that in every company I've worked with or advised or whatever, it's like, don't make opinionated products. You can try and solve a particular problem, and you can have a strong opinion about how to solve that or whatever, but how your customer uses it, they bought it if they want to stick it in their rectum, they can go right ahead and do that. That's not my
problem. At the end of the day, these are all tools, and,
Yes.
and if we have bought it, in theory, then we can do whatever the frick we want with it.
Yep.
Yeah, that even really goes for software. Really,
No,
especially
everything, all
goes
of
for
this.
software.
All of this, yeah.
Right. That the problem that they're trying to solve may be different than the problem that you envisioned, but yours was sufficient, and they will make it work for their problem if it's the best thing available to them. And that you didn't envision that problem, well, too bad. Maybe you should look at that and go, do a lot of people have this problem? Maybe the next product I do be a little more focused on that thing instead of I'm doing a thing and this is my vision, my holy vision, and it can never be tainted. Then don't go into business.
Well,
exactly.
On that note, we have 2 more videos to enjoy, and this one is going to be a conclusion of our thoughts, I think, on Robert Moog, with some of his thoughts as he expresses them.
The instruments that we design are all performance instruments. They're for people to play live, because that's, to me, that's...
They're for people to play live, but I don't think he would have minded if you recorded with them.
No. In fact, that's what he thought he was making originally.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on that since we just had that conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sort of music. The sort of music where you work with computers and you work with tape recorders and combine stuff in the privacy of your own studio is an emulation of live performance. And I just hope we don't forget that the studio produced music and all the recorded music that's an important part of our life will remain important, I think. But I hope we don't forget how important it is for live performance.
I have to agree and disagree here.
Players and form a community right there on the spot.
I don't mind his personal bias at all, but both can exist in the same world and both can be wonderful. So, yeah, it's interesting. I look at studio produced music as something completely separate from live music.
Yeah.
Live music is a very different experience, but studio produced music can provide an experience for you and the musicians as well. So, interesting.
Yeah, because especially tape. Well, they called it tape music, but music where it's composed for a medium.
One is not preferable to the other objectively.
Not objectively.
Separate animals.
Yeah, there's always a certain snobbery that I hear when it's like, "Oh, the live music is the real thing." It was like, so you're telling me you can't actually record well, or we recorded it and we're just trying to reproduce that on such. So you're telling me you don't actually know how to play live music? Okay,
right. So a recording of your composition cannot move anyone.
Yeah, no, it's just about not being both. Yeah, I think you said it the best, Adam. And sometimes you feel like from a recording that it's like, oh, I wish I was hearing this live, and seeing the musician and so forth playing it, and that's valid. But there's also times where a creator wants to create something and say, this is going to be my painting, and that's it, the way it is.
Yeah, I think the best recorded music, you cease to be aware of the musician. That it takes advantage of the fact that I have control over. You're probably listening to this through a headset or through speakers that are appropriately spaced, and that I can create this soundscape and these things that could not be replicated live. Even if we set up the hall, right, the acoustics of the hall would be different and all of this. And so the focus that you put on a recorded session is entirely different than what you do on a live session. And you should always view them as entirely separate mediums.
That is wise, but people don't.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to see Vangelis, take a huge amount of meth and attempt to try and replicate the soundscapes he created live. He can't, right? There's a reason that there were multiple layers of recordings and multiple instruments going on, right?
Well, yeah,
When
once you
can't
cross
do
the
it.
line into multi-tracking, then that becomes more and
Well,
more.
I always love it when someone says that didn't sound like the album.
Yes.
Well, good.
Yes.
I don't want to go see the
Yeah, that's
album.
kind
I
of the
want to
point.
go see them how they perform it
I have
live.
album
the
at
album
home.
at
I don't
home.
need to go outside to see album.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
called Milli Vanilli. I mean, I didn't say that.
That's not music.
Girl, you
We
know
all
it's
that's
true.
not music.
Well, I think we better let Bob
Oh,
finish
Bob's
up here in
cooking
the
something.
kitchen.
Yeah, Bob looks like he's going to make
What's for
something
supper, Bob?
delicious.
My wife, Ileana Grams, is a retired philosopher, and one of her specialties, is in the philosophy of religion. We do a lot of talking at home about the nature of religion and spirituality. We're both learning a lot about the nature of reality and the connections we have with realities that are at a different level than what we experience every day here in the material world. And I think that's changed the way I think about instruments too. The more you get into material, into matter, the more you realize that all there is in matter is energy. There's a blur between energy and consciousness. All material is conscious to some extent or another. All material can respond to some extent or another to the vibrations of energy that is different from the energy you learn about in physics. There's all sorts of reliable information now on people and animal being able to affect the operations of machines, even of computers. And I think that has great implications for what goes on between a musician and his instrument. There is a level of reality where there is no time and there is no space. There's just energy. And we have contact with that through the intermediate layers. So if the right channels, if the right connections are established, I don't see why a piece of matter, a piece of broken glass or an old record can't make contact through this very high level of reality that has access to everything past and future. I suppose my instruments do retain some sort of a memory of me. I know that when I'm working on them, I feel, not explicitly, I don't hear voices in my head or anything, but I have this feeling that I'm making a connection with them. And the circuit diagram that is then converted into a circuit board, which then becomes a part of an instrument, is something that is a record that I made. So I guess in that sense, it's certainly a memory.
Okay. So I thought I'd save the deep stuff for the end.
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack. I did want to get a little bit snarky at the beginning where he said his partner was a retired philosopher, and we don't have to get too far into that. But wow, how does
I like the way he makes the connection between spirituality and science.
Yes,
as if the two. A lot of people think the two cannot coexist.
No, that's nonsense,
and they very much do.
I think Bob may have been the worst person to try and explain how that works. Everything has conscious. Bob, I think we need to go back to basic philosophy and define consciousness first. Is it sentient? No, I don't believe rocks are sentient. So fail on that one. But
they do contain energy. So
right, but again, that out of space and time, there's energy. Bob, I'm not sure where your physics is coming from either. You might need to go back and do a refresher on that one. Right, again, he's terrible at explaining what the point that he's trying to make. I think because he has the wrong language for it. He's trying to force it into the practical, scientific kind of view that he has from his physics. And and electronics.
His metaphysical vocabulary may be lacking.
Yeah, is there? I think what he kind of cleared it up a little bit when he was saying that about his instruments. That's where I guess his consciousness and attention at some level was brought into, what was manifested in a physical matter form. And
right, but the thing is that requires both space and time for it to work, right? So
certainly
the idea that it was his idea that it started out as purely a thought, and through his actions and the actions of others to build this thing, it became this material thing, and that it is an instantiation of this idea that he has, and as he said, that in some way this is a memory of me, right? Because again, you could look at it and go, somebody took it apart and was examining it for the first time. They in some way revisit the thoughts that he had when creating it to begin with,
and the process.
And
he was imbued in that object because of the process of building.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, let me see here. Scott has been contributing a little bit here.
Scott's on fire tonight.
And Eraserhead has been contributing. Yeah. And
if y'all want to drop some psilocybin and go like another 6 hours, we could tease this out.
Let's go.
Well, I think we could do something here. And this might be aptly named the next thing I'm going to present.
No,
Bob, not at the Ren Fire.
Oh, that's the wrong thing.
That is definitely the wrong thing, sir.
Wrong thing. Okay, and this might be aptly named. It's something entitled "Forget About It."
Lovely. Is that one of Psyche's builds?
That is.
Wow.
And yeah, that was kind of interesting because I constantly resisted the urge with that particular piece to do traditional slide things.
Mhm.
If you notice, I really didn't do a lot of vibrato. There wasn't a lot of crazy up and down. I just kept it very, very mellow.
Mhm.
Which in the end, I was kind of like, I don't know if I like this. it was just a very strange piece.
I think the restraint is appropriate there. That was lovely.
You get
Thank you.
more
Yeah.
of a sitar sound from it than you do like Delta blues or something.
Yeah, yeah. And to answer Liza's question, no, it's the same strings I had on it. I think they're Ernie balls. I don't remember, but they're low strings, as if you couldn't tell that.
It's a really nice underwater quality to that.
Yeah, yeah. I like it.
What software do you use to generate the fractals?
What is the name of that? I don't know. It's like on. I got a couple on the phone. I got one on the tablet.
Oh, okay. No, I use Project M that attempts to interact with the music, and it's just sometimes it's just a little bit quirky.
Yeah, not real good. I mean, I think it's just called Fractal. One of them is Fractal Tunnels.
Oh, okay.
That's what it's called. It's just apps I got off Android.
All right.
Caladeer or something like that.
Well, then you were selective and found good ones.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I deleted a whole bunch of crappy ones. Yeah, the ones that they tell you they're free, and then you get on there and you can't do anything till you give them buckets of money. So,
of course.
Yeah, right.
All righty. Well, Mike Mountain Hawk Burley is listed in the description. If you memorize those 4 words, you'll find him on YouTube. And as I decided not to go ahead with the trip, we are going to be finishing things off here, folks.
Well, that was kind of trippy.
Yeah, it was.
Well, that movie, I mean, I liked the first half. It's just something about when he just got out of the guy's place and started roaming around.
Not a perfect movie, but they're trying to replicate an experience, and honestly, yeah, they're trying to cash in on the cultural moment. But
I was looking for answers, man.
It's in the sequel. It all pays off in the sequel. Roger, where are we on that?
Is there a sequel?
No.
No. Okay, I didn't think so.
Not specifically.
I mean, there could be for an extra $25 a month.
Yeah, I can't remember if this is pre-Easy Rider or after Easy Rider.
Trip?
Yeah, I think it's after.
I was thinking it was before.
It was 80
movie. I can't recall.
No. 67. 67.
Yeah,
was
so it's before.
Yeah, they're just getting their feet wet in the psychedelic visuals, and there's not a lot of storytelling really to tell.
Yeah,
just having a good time.
The conversation in the laundromat was all right and stuff, but
it is what it is. I have a soft spot in my heart for that movie. It came along at the right time. Let me just say that.
But I think what we'll do is, I don't know if you guys are down with it. I think next week maybe I'll do Altered States, and then the following week,
wow, okay,
we'll do Clockwork Orange because Halloween is orange.
Yeah,
now States is not electronic music, but we've already gone beyond electronic music with medieval music. So I think John Corigliano is a very inspiring composer, and he definitely deserves some attention, I believe, because the score for that film is pretty phenomenal. Too bad it was recorded at a time where, you know, I don't think the audio recording of it was as good as it could have been. And it may not have had to do with the time period, but
no, that's definitely not the time period. We managed to record things pretty well prior to that.
But I don't know, somehow I think the miking of the orchestra could have been better or something. But the music itself was excellent. And I don't know. I
Clearly,
feel
we need Scarface for Giorgio Moroder.
Yeah, and then in the future, I think I might, in the month of November, put together some clips of Carl Sagan.
There you go.
Oh, the Cosmos series is.
He can
I
be
have
trippy,
that
too.
entire soundtrack that I listen to on the regular. It's in my playlist and comes up often.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. But he could say some trippy stuff too. Okay, folks. So, does anybody want to announce anything before
Well, I was
we
just
go
going to
in?
tell you, in 2 weeks, I may not be with you. I will be in Ohio. I'm
Oh,
going to see.
for a minute. Whew. I was
I'm
worried
going
when
to-
you
well,
said you weren't
speaking
going to
of-
be with us anymore.
Well, not anymore.
Oh, okay.
2 weeks.
Ohio
I'm
is
going to-
like that, though.
Well, speaking of trippy, I'm going to go with a buddy of mine. We're going down to Cincinnati. We're going to see Beat, which is Steve Vai, Adrian Belew.
Wow.
Yeah, the King Crimson thing from the 80s that they're doing.
Really?
If you've seen any
Wow.
videos, it is stellar. I am completely stoked about
Jealous.
this show.
Guitar Gods, the show.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, yeah, it's going to be something else. So, and you know, I don't know if you ever plan on doing this in the future, but you know, the guitars have come a long way with the synthesis as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, you could definitely take the lead on that. And
Well, I would. Well, we'll talk later. I
you're
know,
like, no.
I know
prefer
somebody
you
that
do
would be
the
a
work.
great guest on the show.
Oh no, that would be good. That
Yeah.
would be good.
How about you do the work and bring it here?
Well, I will bring him here. Yeah, I would imagine.
You earn the money and I'll spend it. It seems like a good division of labor to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Comrade.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just saying that since you're a guitarist and you would know more about it, if you could kind of lead me in a direction, you know, I could do the work of getting clips organized and stuff like that. But
Well,
Eraserhead's seen the show.
D-Man on the show. I speak of Gabriel Marin, of Consider the Source.
Oh,
who is
okay.
a massive, as far as electronics and everything that he has, would be greatly interesting.
Yeah, great. I'd love to have him on the show, and he's definitely welcome. He's welcome to come on anytime he'd like. Now, Eraserhead apparently has seen the show you're about to see.
Yeah, and that's I'm jealous as well. It's calling out Danny
Going
Carey.
for a second time. Oh yes, really? You think so? Weakest link, huh?
Interesting.
I thought it was interesting, you know, but well, we'll see.
Well, have a great time, Mike.
Thank you.
We eagerly await your report.
Oh, I will report.
All right. So, anything different this week, Adam? Of course, there's B-sides as usual on Friday.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything specific coming up except Wednesday will be a Totaled Recall episode. We do every other Wednesday, and we're doing body parts, much to my chagrin. We'll be remembering that for you. And then every Friday, we are at B-Sides with Emperor Goodwin. And I think the feature for Friday is The Mad Doctor. Not confirmed. Not confirmed.
The Mad Doctor.
One of these
Probably
days,
mad
I'll
that he's going to
actually
be
get
on
with you on
B-sides.
Friday night. I seem to watch the reruns.
Oh, that's fine. We appreciate that as well.
Yeah, but you know, I think it's probably more maddening if you get it live. You know.
Oh, it definitely is.
There was a lot of madness.
Especially for me running the show.
Yeah.
You think that's bad? You should try watching it from our side. For God's sake.
We do a lot of interaction with our chat, so if you could be there live, it's great. If not, I hope the replays are worthwhile for everyone. So yeah, join myself, Barbara Lawrence, and Jay Goodwin every Friday on B-Roll Stage, and we'll make you laugh. We promise.
Hold on, there's a Bill Bruford mention here, so I wanted to pull this up. Bill Bruford.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But Bill is retired. He was not interested.
Really?
No, he was. He is actually retired.
Well, we all got to pay the bills.
Well, that makes one of us, Scott.
Yeah. Well,
I would like to retire from
I
philosophy.
appreciate an artist that says, if they feel that perhaps they're not moving forward or whatever. I kind of went instrumental that way. I used to write lyrics years ago and had some songs, and at some point I just really didn't have anything to say, and I'm not going to force it.
Sure. Yeah. I get that.
I have a lot of respect for musicians that kind of do that.
Yeah, I had a lot of interaction with Steve Albini back in the day. Rest in peace. And he could never get past the point of feeling like there was a hole somewhere if there weren't some kind of vocals or something filling up that space. He struggled with that for a long time.
A lot of people do.
Yeah, he wasn't very into assigning, words to things or whatever. He just wanted the intensity and the energy to come across. But if he struggled with the instrumental stuff.
Yeah, a lot of people do. They can't. My wife is one. So
I think the when you really have a good sense of music or acting or any performance is understanding the importance of silence and pauses.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. That's kind of the final mountain you have to climb to really be good, is to understand the importance of letting a thing lie for a bit,
letting it breathe,
giving it the space, right? Even the graphic arts, right? You see when
Sure.
you're early on people that it's just everything gets covered in shit, and then you learn the importance of white space. You learn how to set things apart. And
yeah, I majored in illustration, and my OCD or whatever you want to call it just wanted me to do Jeff Darrow and cover every inch of everything with detail and information or whatever. But what you really learn is the thing that you don't draw is the important part. It's the negative space that gives way to the depth of what you have worked on.
Yep, it carries the weight.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think tonight we didn't lose the chat at all, did we?
No,
software held up.
I mean, they tried, but
we still don't have any audio visualization for Adam.
No, nothing for me. I think you want my $5.
What Chrome are you using? Any Chrome extensions that are audio based?
No, I have like 2 Chrome extensions. One of them is YouTube dislikes, and then I think the other one is some kind of dark mode thing. But,
dark reader. That's
I don't know what it is. It was strange. I had a little trouble logging in earlier because my browser wouldn't let me leave my B-roll account, and most things I control from the Adam Gray account. So minor glitches, we'll get it.
I was amused that Wave decided to ignore actual preferences for audio output. It was like, no, you're going through the speakers regardless. No, you're not.
Yeah, but I think we had things like that with StreamYard too.
No, StreamYard doesn't actually mess with your underlying settings for the operating system.
It hasn't with mine.
Oh, the operating system?
Oh yeah, like I think it was like a month or 2 ago that I came from this and like immediately had to jump onto Gooch's stream for his late night with the Gooch. And everybody in chat's like, man, you're really low. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm turning it up in StreamYards like crazy. The problem is that Wave had decided to turn my system level setting on the mic down to like 15%.
No,
Ooh,
not
how-
good.
I don't know how could it reach to the operating system level?
Because Chrome allows you to do that shit.
Oh,
Hmm.
well, Brave is Chromium based, so, but I think it doesn't. It puts like these things up for me to be able to block it and stuff.
Can you block the search engine in Brave?
Yeah, you can block the
yeah, I
Brave
could
search
just
engine,
use
you can do it.
Google instead. So anyway, folks, it was an enjoyable evening, and I invite you guys to also throw some ideas my way of things you might want to try and stuff. And I'd be happy to entertain such things.
I mean, the interesting thing is we're heading in. I mean, with when you get Bob Moog, and then you're really starting to head into this huge acceleration of synthesis and multiple types, right? You know, both of, you know, we've been on subtractive for quite a while. Then you start getting to FM and additive and the explosion of different synths that are really impactful for the music industry, not only at the time but still to this day. You know, the EMU stuff, the oh god, what was the big one out of Australia, the sampling, the Fairlight.
Oh
right.
Oh yeah, ARP, and I mean, there's so much. So yeah, and if you do make recommendations, because at this point we're not going in order, we're just gonna tap on different things a different week and try and change the pace up a little bit. Like next week we'll do a little bit of movie and stuff, and
the Japanese are coming in the synthesis wars. Once Bob starts,
Are we going into the 80s?
Roland and Korg, and 70s with Roland Korg, Yamaha.
Oh yeah, and they basically beat his price, and then the Chinese beat theirs, and
yeah, but I mean the Japanese really started like folding in a lot of additional features and creating far more complex. Did you just see? Was it NAMM this year that Korg brought out the 3300 again?
No, I didn't see that yet.
I believe it's $30,000.
What?
Who? I don't know.
I mean, if you understand the complexity of the 3300, you can see why it is ludicrously expensive.
But that's a studio purchase. That's not an artist.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. For a lot of artists this days,
there's not a lot of studios anymore.
Right.
Fair.
I mean, professional recording studios. I mean, mostly project studios where people are,
well,
doing their own thing.
I was because I was watching somebody go through the 3300 and well, a couple of people I saw going through it, and I was vaguely aware of the 3300. It was ludicrously out of any experience that I would have had. And because they didn't make a lot of them to begin with, because they were ludicrously expensive. But when he was explaining to me, I was like, oh yeah, I can see why this would be stupidly expensive even today. I mean, you essentially have multiple synthesizer per key.
Hello.
Oh, we lost you for just a blip.
I heard per key, and then it.
That was it.
Yeah.
There are literally multiple synthesizers per key.
Okay.
And you have a key bed.
We thought you got clipped.
Yeah, no. It's I'm gonna press this key. I would like to have these multi-voice synthesizers for the key of A sharp on the fifth. But the fourth is an entirely different set. Go ahead, do it that way.
Oh yeah.
And then, by the way, I can actually change the tunings so that I'm not in standard Western keys, but change it up as well. I mean, it is an incredibly complex synthesizer. It was all analog.
Yeah. Well, I mean, layering can get. It's one of those things that I don't do much of, except unless, of course, I really have some elements that I strip down a lot and then put together. But I'm looking this up. Korg S3300.
I found one on Reverb, $97,000.
That's probably one of the old ones. Yeah. No, the new one just came out at NAMM. I know Alex Ball on YouTube did a deep dive on it. A few other big synth and instrument channels got to borrow one to play.
Wow. And
it's still a chunky boy because again, you have to. I don't care how much you shrink the circuitry. When you essentially have multiple synths per key, volume will be taken up if you're doing it in an analog fashion.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. That's why I can't really talk.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'm gonna need about 38 seconds to touch myself a bit.
Let's wrap the show. And
all right. Yes, let us bring this to a conclusion, folks. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, chat. Scott and Eraserhead, it's lovely to have you there, hanging strong with us. And next week I think will be Altered States. There was no one.
Yeah, let's do it. I love that.
I'd certainly like to alter my state. I do want to say that. So this week, B-sides I'll have on Friday. On Saturday, Film Comics Explained. Our good friend Niat is starting a series of shows where we're covering the Alien and Predator franchises in order of release. So Saturday we'll be covering the 1979 Alien.
Oh boy.
What time is that?
I believe it's at 5 Central.
Okay. So that UK time slot that we've been speculating about to get probably back is still open. That's good. All these new series coming out, everyone's going to have a stream.
Everybody's got a stream.
Yeah, no, I wake up and there's 3 concurrent streams going pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, when I'm going to bed, there's still 3 concurrent streams.
Yeah,
until dark 30.
Yeah, pretty soon you'll have 3 concurrent streams with Emperor Goodwin in all 3.
Yeah, he'll just have a mic switcher and he'll be bouncing back.
Like, stream 1, you're full of shit. Okay, stream 2, that was great. Stream 3, I'm bored.
You're wrong, Leon.
Yeah,
and
shut up, Leon.
And then you're like telling them about the Korg S3300.
I'll just drop that into all of them and then watch them all wander off for a while. Like, I'm going to get a sandwich while everybody
just baffle them with bullshit.
Spends a little quality time.
All right, folks. So that'll be it for this evening, and we are going to end with. I'm thinking we might want to have a little bit of. Do we want? Yeah, I think I'm going to say we deserve some public service announcements before the national anthem. So here we go.
Boy. All right. Good night.
Good night, all.
Good night, folks. Well, I pressed the thing.
You pressed a thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Not the thing.
There we
go. Water. Just so many ways to enjoy it. Almost everyone swims through it, rides on it, or plays around it. It's fun. But accidents do happen. Many could be avoided. Still, others kept harmless. If people were safety-minded. Safety means having the right equipment and skills. Your Red Cross chapter can help with information and instruction. So give them a call and be safe.
This weekend on The Late Show, an attack of gnawing terror. 11:30 Saturday, Willard rules a powerful rat army.
You made me hate myself. Well, I like myself now. Tear 'em up!
Saturday, 11:30 Sunday, the rats are hungry again.
I want every train in this city exempt. 1,150 miles of pipe? Every inch of it.
Where Willard ended, Ben begins. Willard and Ben, 2 gnawing terrors on Channel 4 beginning at 11:30 on The Late Show.
And one of the most important things I learned is you don't become a star overnight. It really takes a lot of hard work to get there. Now what I want to do, Ronnie, is give you a few tips on defense. Now you're going to run a sweep around me and I'm going to try to stop you. You watch how I stop you.
He's no Larry Zonka, but he's a terrific big brother.
How did he do that?
Share yourself with a kid. Share yourself with a kid.
On Thursday, November 13th, CBS proudly presents a major motion picture event. Sylvester Stallone as the fighter whose whole life was a 1,000,000-to-1 shot. Talia Shire as the woman who loved him and believed in him. Winner of 3 Academy Awards. Rocky. Thursday at 8, 7 Central and Mountain.
Tomorrow on CBS.
This concludes another day of programming on Channel 4. Before signing off, we'd like to invite you to start every day with WTVJ and enjoy a world of entertainment coming your way over Florida's pioneer television station, WTVJ, Channel 4, Miami. Ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem.